The United States' major military involvement in Afghanistan began shortly after September 11, 2001, or the date that terrorists from the terrorist group Al-Qaeda hijacked planes and flew them into both the Twin Towers in New York City and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. Also on September 11th of that same year, Ahmad Shah Massoud, the commander of the Northern Alliance, an anti-Taliban coalition, was assassinated by Al-Qaeda.
The U.S. felt the need to retaliate for the acts of terrorism that killed many of its citizens, and this led to the U.S. war in Afghanistan. The law that allowed such violence towards the terrorists of 9/11 was created by American President George W. Bush on September 18, 2001, and was known as the Law of Joint Revolution.
The United States wanted the Taliban to turn in Osama bin Laden to the authorities. However, the Taliban refused. This refusal was followed by U.S. military intervention. There was a Bonn conference that took place in December 2001 that was supported by the United Nations. At the conference, a leader that was supported by the U.S. was selected to be Afghanistan's new president.
As the U.S. war in Afghanistan continued into May 2003, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld and George W. Bush announced that the major combat was over and mission accomplished to fighting in Iraq. Rumsfeld also announced that President Bush, U.S. Central Command Chief General Tommy Franks, and Afghan President Hamid Karzai declared an end to combat and decided to work towards a period of peace, stability, and reconstruction activity. This was predicted to help many organizations in sending troops and supplies, especially European groups.
The leader of Al-Qaeda and the orchestrator of 9/11 was Osama bin Laden, and one of the United States' goals was to kill him and achieve revenge for the devastating terror caused by 9/11.
The U.S. also wanted some control in Afghanistan to prevent future attacks. During the U.S. war in Afghanistan, the United States and their allies were successful in taking power from the Taliban and stopping the attempted attacks from Al-Qaeda.
The U.S. had a strong military presence in Afghanistan in the year 2010, as at that time there were 400 U.S. military bases and around 300 more national police or army bases that were either controlled or supported by the USA.
The involvement of the U.S. military in Afghanistan brought negative effects to both countries. In 2014, the United States was spending around $11 billion a month to continue their involvement. Also, Afghanistan lost about one-third of the population, or about 1 million people, because of the war.
In May 2016, the United States airstrike thought about killing Akhtar Mohammad Mansour, the Taliban chief in Islamabad, Pakistan. According to officials and analysts, this represents the U.S.'s willingness to attack Taliban leaders on Pakistan land, further involving the U.S. in the war in Afghanistan. The effort to kill Akhtar Mohammad Mansour can be seen as the most aggressive attack the U.S. military has made in Pakistan since the strike on Osama bin Laden in 2011.
United States officials justified that killing Mansour was appropriate because he denied peace negotiations and reconciliation with Afghanistan's leaders and was planning to attack the U.S. military in Afghanistan. According to Secretary of State John F. Kerry, Mansour was posing a continuous threat to U.S. personnel in Afghanistan, Afghan civilians, Afghan security forces, and resolute support coalition members across the country. He also declared that the U.S. will continue to help and defend the U.S.'s Afghan partners as they work to make Afghanistan safer and more unified. It's important to understand the current issues occurring with the United States military and the relationships and involvement it has with other countries, including Afghanistan.
The U.S. involvement with Afghanistan is closely related with nuclear nonproliferation, as terrorism poses a threat to the United States citizens if not controlled.